I dedicated a significant amount of time to studying Marcus Aurelius. My initial encounter with his work was through his renowned book, The Meditations, which offers valuable insights on applying Stoic philosophy to everyday life. This was more than 25 years ago, and since then, I have authored 6 books on Stoicism. Interestingly, 3 of these books revolve around the life of Marcus Aurelius. The first book I wrote was a self-help guide titled How to Think Like a Roman Emperor, which drew inspiration from various aspects of his life. Subsequently, I authored a prose biography of Marcus Aurelius for Yale University Press. And in between these 2 publications, I also created a graphic novel called Verissimus, the Stoic philosophy of Marcus Aurelius, which provided visual representations that are featured in this article. Throughout my research, I came across numerous fascinating discoveries that I would like to share. When Marcus led a dance troupe, Marcus was chosen for various important roles during his youth, thanks to the influence of Emperor Hadrian. One of these positions was leading the College of the Sully, a Roman religious order known as the Leaping Priests. This order, believed to have been founded by the legendary King Numa, performed ancient rituals dedicated to Mars, the god of war. The Sully engaged in athletic military dances, wielding archaic shields and spears, while reciting obscure chants. These practices aim to prepare young individuals for the physical demands of battle. Marcus' involvement in dance, as mentioned in his Meditations, reflects his extensive experience and adds a personal significance to his reflections. In fact, Marcus compares the art of life to that of a wrestler, emphasizing the need to be prepared for sudden and unexpected challenges. Despite this focus on wrestling, Marcus also took great pleasure in his dance training and eventually became the leader of the Sully. To Marcus enjoyed toilet humor. Marcus found amusement in toilet humor. In his work, The Meditations, Marcus contemplates the transformation of Greek tragedy into Old Comedy, which he believes influenced Diogenes the Cynic due to its bold and unrestricted speech. However, Marcus also acknowledges that comedy has gradually lost its significance and become trivial over time. Essentially, he believed that the old-fashioned cynical humor could still serve a moral purpose. Furthermore, Marcus provides an example of his philosophical ponderings on the superficiality of material wealth by referencing a scatological joke from the poet Menander, who represents New Comedy. Despite the difference in comedic style, Marcus still finds value in Menander as joke. The joke revolves around a wealthy man who possesses so many belongings that he has no place left to relieve himself. To Marcus enjoyed toilet humor. Marcus found amusement in toilet humor. In his work, The Meditations, Marcus contemplates the transformation of Greek tragedy into Old Comedy, which he believes influenced Diogenes the Cynic due to its bold and unrestricted speech. However, Marcus also acknowledges that comedy has gradually lost its significance and become trivial over time. Essentially, he believed that the old-fashioned cynical humor could still serve a moral purpose. Furthermore, Marcus provides an example of his philosophical ponderings on the superficiality of material wealth by referencing a scatological joke from the poet Menander, who represents New Comedy. Despite the difference in comedic style, Marcus still finds value in Menander as joke. The joke revolves around a wealthy man who possesses so many belongings that he has no place left to relieve himself. 3. Marcus may have read lost books by Epictetus. Marcus might have perused some of the lost books written by Epictetus. The Stoic philosopher Marcus frequently cites Epictetus, who passed away in Greece while Marcus was still a young boy in Rome, indicating that they missed the chance to meet. Marcus mentions that his primary Stoic mentor, Junius Rusticus, provided him with a set of notes from Epictetus' lectures from his personal collection. Since Marcus quotes from the surviving discourses of Epictetus on multiple occasions, it is highly probable that these are the texts he is referring to. Historical sources suggest that there were originally 8 volumes of Epictetus' discourses, but only 4 have survived to this day. Historical sources suggest that there were originally 8 volumes of Epictetus' discourses, but only 4 have survived to this day, meaning that half of them are now lost. Marcus, however, also cites Epictetus in ways that are not found in the surviving texts, raising the possibility that he may have read the missing 4 volumes of Epictetus' discourses. Additionally, Arrian, the student who transcribed and edited the discourses, mentioned that they were initially kept private and only became public knowledge at a later time. When Marcus emphasizes that Rusticus gave him a copy from his private collection, it could indicate that, at that time, the existence of these scrolls was still a closely guarded secret. For Marcus harbored doubts about Seneca. None of the Stoics who came after Seneca mention him in their surviving writings. In the Meditations, Marcus does not refer to Seneca, despite Seneca's fame as Emperor Nero's Latin rhetoric tutor and later his speechwriter and top advisor. This absence could be due to the tendency of Roman authors writing in Greek, like Marcus, to not cite those who wrote in Latin, such as Seneca. However, evidence suggests that Marcus had indeed read Seneca's works, as seen in a collection of letters between Marcus and his own rhetoric tutor, Marcus Cornelius Fronto. Fronto, in his letters, mentions Seneca multiple times. Despite their shared profession as Latin rhetoric tutors to emperors, Fronto appears to hold a low opinion of Seneca's writings. In fact, he goes as far as likening the search for wisdom in Seneca's works to scavenging for silver coins in the filth at the bottom of a sewer. Although we lack Marcus's responses to Fronto's criticisms, it is evident from Fronto's letters that Marcus was familiar with Seneca's writings and may have even defended him to some degree. It is possible that they were more acquainted with Seneca's political speeches rather than the moral letters for which he is renowned today. For instance, Seneca's work on clemency portrays Nero as a philosopher king, boldly asserting that the emperor's hands, despite having recently murdered his brother Britannicus, were untainted by blood. There is a passage in the works of the Roman historian Cassius Dio which implies that Thracia, the leader of the Stoic opposition against Emperor Nero, advocated for Seneca to be subjected to damnatio memoriae, a Roman tradition of erasing someone's name from history. While Thracia and his followers risked their lives to oppose Nero's tyranny, Seneca was supporting him and defending his actions in the Senate. Epictetus, who was once a slave to Nero's Greek secretary, witnessed the scandal surrounding Seneca firsthand. He admired Thracia's group of Stoics as moral role models, which could explain why he chose not to mention Seneca out of respect for them. Marcus, on the other hand, considered Nero a tyrant driven by animalistic desires, possibly leading him to distance himself from Seneca, following in the footsteps of Epictetus. 5. Marcus was opposed by a faction of enemies at Rome. Marcus faced opposition from a group of enemies in Rome, as evidenced by the civil war that erupted in 176 CE, led by his top general in the East, Avidius Cassius. Cassius had the support of 7 legions, each under the command of officers, some of whom were typically from the senatorial class. He also appointed his own praetorian prefects and personal bodyguards. The prefect of Egypt, a crucial province in the empire, also backed Cassius. Various senators and officials were part of the faction that backed Cassius in his rebellion against Marcus. The exact reasons for the civil war remain unclear, but it seems that those opposing Marcus were military hardliners who believed he relied too heavily on diplomacy in handling the ongoing war along the Danube frontier. They viewed Marcus as too much of a peacemaker. The rebellion was short-lived, and Cassius was eventually killed by his own officers. There were also rumors circulating in Roman histories that criticized Marcus and his family. Some of these rumors aimed to question the legitimacy of his son Commodus. For instance, there were whispers about Empress Faustina's alleged infidelity with sailors and gladiators. It is possible that these rumors were part of a propaganda campaign by the faction behind the civil war, seeking to undermine Commodus' claim to the throne. However, surviving statues suggest that Commodus bore a strong physical resemblance to his father, casting doubt on the legitimacy concerns. 6. Marcus' mother was a highly educated woman. Marcus' mother, Domitia Lucilla, was a woman of great education. After Marcus' father passed away when he was just 4 years old, other male relatives in the family took on the responsibility of raising him. However, Domitia Lucilla eventually took him back under her care. Marcus held a deep affection for his mother, who spent her final years living with him in the imperial palace of Emperor Antoninus Pius. Despite her small stature, she was a formidable figure in the Roman construction industry, inheriting a brick and tile factory as well as clay fields from her family. This made her one of the most influential and affluent women in Rome. Many bricks bearing her name have been discovered. In addition to her business acumen, Domitia Lucilla was known for her intellectual pursuits and love for Greek culture. She had close ties with prominent figures like Herodes Atticus and was friends with Marcus' tutors, Junius Rusticus and Fronto. Fronto, a renowned Latin rhetorician, even addressed her as the mother of Caesar in Greek, showing her esteemed status as a woman of intelligence and culture. She may have also taken Fronto as young wife under her guidance, acting as a mentor. It is probable that she presided over a salon or a group of intellectuals who frequented their home to engage in discussions on Greek literature during Marcus' upbringing. It is likely that she played a significant role in selecting Marcus' tutors. Interestingly, apart from the prominent Greek and Latin rhetoricians of the era, there appears to be a notable presence of Stoic philosophers among Marcus' educators. Furthermore, historical accounts suggest that he delved into the study of philosophy at the remarkably tender age of 12, which could potentially be attributed to his mother's influence. 7. Marcus throws shade onto very important people. Romans frequently express their disapproval by deliberately excluding or erasing someone's name from historical records, a practice known as damnatio memoriae. This ancient precursor to canceling someone can be observed in the Meditations through two notable examples. The first instance involves Emperor Hadrian, who was Marcus' adoptive grandfather. Hadrian played a significant role in grooming Marcus for power and ensuring his place in the line of succession after Antoninus Pius. Marcus had a close familiarity with Hadrian, as he resided in his villa during the final months of Hadrian's life. However, during this period, Hadrian's mental and physical health deteriorated rapidly, leading to political purges, including against members of Marcus' own family. Interestingly, Marcus lavishes praise upon Antoninus Pius in Book 1 of the Meditations when listing the family members and mentors he admires the most. Surprisingly, he makes no mention of Hadrian. Although Marcus does refer to Hadrian a few times later in the book, it is solely to illustrate the transient nature of power and the inevitability of being forgotten after death. Furthermore, several qualities that Marcus extols in Antoninus seem to imply criticisms of Hadrian. For instance, when Marcus asserts that nobody could ever accuse him of being a sophist in reference to Antoninus, it subtly implies a contrast with Hadrian. The second individual is Herodes Atticus, the primary Greek rhetoric tutor of Marcus. Herodes, who was a close friend of the family, held a prominent position within the Second Sophistic movement. He was widely regarded as the most esteemed intellectual in the Roman Empire during that era. However, it is worth noting that he held a highly critical stance towards Stoic philosophy. Interestingly, Marcus does not make any reference to Herodes in his Meditations. There is a complete absence of any positive remarks about him. Instead, Marcus expresses admiration for all of his Stoic tutors, as well as an unnamed Trophius, possibly a slave or freedman, who played the role of a nanny tutor during his early childhood. It is evident that Herodes, known for his arrogance, would have been greatly offended by this disregard, particularly when Marcus explicitly expresses gratitude towards an anonymous slave for the knowledge imparted to him. 8. Marcus may have been a budding historian. Marcus, potentially a budding historian, is mentioned in a letter from Fronto where he acknowledges giving Marcus advice on how to prepare himself for writing a historical work, as it was Marcus' aspiration. Additionally, in the Meditations, Marcus hints at having compiled notes for a history of the ancient Greeks and Romans. However, Marcus is urged not to be distracted any longer. He is advised against reading his notebooks, accounts of ancient Roman and Greek history, or the commonplace books he had intended to save for his later years. Throughout the Meditations, there are glimpses of Marcus' perspective on famous Greeks and Romans, which may have been somewhat controversial. For example, he questions the significance of figures like Alexander the Great, Julius Caesar, and Pompey the Great in comparison to Diogenes the Cynic, Heraclitus, and Socrates. It is evident that Marcus holds a preference for philosophers and believes that the renowned military leaders are overrated. He views them as morally compromised individuals who are enslaved by their desire for power and glory. 9. Marcus introduced safety nets for tightrope walkers during ancient times. It was common for children to undergo training in order to showcase acrobatic skills for the amusement of paying spectators. These performances were often desired to be thrilling and perilous, catering to the preferences of the crowds. However, according to one of our sources, Marcus Aurelius intervened and put an end to this practice in Rome. Among the numerous examples of his unwavering consideration for others, there is a particular act of kindness worth mentioning. After a young boy, who happened to be a rope dancer, had a fall, Marcus Aurelius instructed for mattresses to be placed beneath all rope dancers. This precautionary measure is the reason why safety nets are still used in similar performances today, ensuring the protection of the performers. This anecdote is mentioned in the Historia Augusta. Another historian, Cassius Dio, states that Marcus Aurelius was famously opposed to violence and therefore implemented a rule for gladiators in Rome. He required them to engage in combat, similar to athletes, without risking their lives. This meant that they were to fight with blunted weapons, which could cut but not penetrate, causing only superficial wounds. The intention behind this rule was to minimize the chances of fatal injuries while still maintaining the excitement of the fights. 10. Marcus was initiated into the Eleusinian mysteries. Renowned sophist Philostratus cites a letter attributed to Marcus Aurelius, in which he addresses Herodes Atticus. In this letter, Marcus Aurelius urges Herodes not to hold any resentment towards him. If he has caused any annoyance or continues to do so, Marcus Aurelius encourages Herodes to seek reparation from him at the temple of Athena in his city during the time of the mysteries. It is worth noting that Marcus Aurelius had made a vow to be initiated into these rites when the war was at its peak, and he expresses his desire for Herodes to be the one to initiate him. This event seems to have garnered significant attention, as Marcus Aurelius funded the reconstruction of the temple complex, which had suffered damage during the war. The fact that he underwent initiation was documented by 3 different historians of that era. As a testament to this event, a bust of Marcus Aurelius was placed above the main gate of the temple precinct, and it can still be seen today amidst the ruins of Eleusina, located just outside Athens. Artwork from Verissimus, copyright Donald J. Robertson, reproduced with authorization. The enigmas of Eleusis revolved around the legend of the goddess Demeter, the nurturing earth mother linked to agriculture. Numerous passages in the Meditations clearly allude to Eleusinian imagery concerning ears of corn and the natural rhythms of birth and death. Life must be harvested like the mature ears of corn. One person is born, another passes away. There has always been a connection between the Eleusinian mysteries and Stoicism, as the ritual, spanning several days, actually commenced in front of the Stoipoikal, the headquarters of the Stoic school in Athens, before proceeding to the nearby Eleusis.